think this is where the lines blur a little bit, Chris, Councillor Darby, because from the point of view of my position in the chair, we discussed this at a workshop. We asked Letitia and Panaku to discuss both parcels of land with parks. When Letitia came back to us, she had the view of parks presented to us, which was in support of the disposals. Within the Parks Department, I'm not exactly sure where that came from, and I appreciate that you've spoken to me outside of these meetings, and I have seen the local Parks advisors' comments, but I don't know how that was fed into Parks' ultimate decision. So in terms of a gateway opportunity from the industrialised Wairau Valley, I can certainly understand why that would have some appeal, and I can appreciate Mr. Duffy's comments in that regard. I don't understand why that wasn't Parks' ultimate point of view. I can't speak to whether our Parks portfolio holder did have an opportunity to tease that issue out. I would have expected that Parks would present that view to the Parks portfolio holder, but this is a whole lot of comment that I can't really make, because ultimately my expectation is that the Parks Department will present a representative view, and I don't want to in any way suggest that they haven't, but it is worrying to hear that there's that position of the local Parks advisor which wasn't communicated directly to us in the official report.
Okay, and just one other question about landscape. I appreciate what you're saying about it's maybe not a place for people to gather or children to gather, but of course our parks do different things. They're not just for people, they are for landscape and, you know, establishment of great trees that can become, trees that can become great trees. So just, are you aware, were you ever presented with any images of what was there? Because there were a lot of trees on this particular site and it was totally denuded. The former Takapuna Community Board actually decided not to have so much landscape, but there was a determination, and in the plan for Wairau, that Wairau Forest Hill intersection, there was a plan to establish a treed environment on the road reserve that has not been put in place. Was that ever conveyed, that it was a heavily treed environment and is a no tree environment except for one skinny little silk oak or something?
Well, I mean, I can only really speak to, again, what was on the report. It wasn't conveyed to us in the official report, other than, as I say, on page 23 of your agenda, you can see we had those same satellite images, which does show the original house, what looks like a garage out the back, and you can probably see about 2 or 3 trees that were on the site that aren't on the site now. So from that point of view, that was the extent of the imagery that members were presented with from the report. I myself double-checked on Google Maps and a couple of other sort of avenues. I hadn't seen the original proposals from North Shore City, so I can't speak to those, but that is somewhat of a surprise. And just more generally, I guess all I would highlight is having gone to a number of the schools in that area and presented a sort of eco award to the primary school just up the road, it would be absolutely appropriate for a piece of land to do that in this area. And I would like to think that we can have the kind of relationship with the governing body and with this committee where we can say, you know, a more appropriate space should be available, and we would like to see an acquisition in that regard, but we're not going to hold preciously onto every piece of land that was acquired for alternative purposes simply for the sake of trying to prevent any sale from that point of view. So, sorry, it's a jumbled response, Councillor Darby, but I think generally we weren't provided that extent of information. Members are encouraged to try and find whatever they can outside of that meeting to help inform it. And we do have a number of former North Shore City councillors on our board who didn't specifically identify that, but
and just one last one. So on 23, you've got an aerial of pre-construction of the works. But are you aware that that aerial is taken after the former North Shore City Council acquired the land, the house is still there, and it denuded the environment of all the vegetation?
No, I wasn't aware.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. And Councillor Watson.
Yeah, thank you. Just in terms of the resolution of the board and the practicalities of finding a replacement spot, Joe, which seems to be the proviso that's been put in by the board. this is a very urbanised area. I mean, realistically, it's going to be very unlikely that a suitable area of that size and dimension will be found around Wairau Road or Forest Hill Road, isn't it? Realistically.
I think realistically it would be entirely feasible to do so. We have the example of Lake Town Green, for example, in our Hauraki area of Takapuna, where it did have a property on it when it was acquired by North Shore City Council that was demolished, and now it's one of the most popular playgrounds in our board area. So I do think it's possible in that area to find the right kind of acquisition. I'm not saying it's going to be cheap, but I would like to see that kind of impetus put in there. And in terms of the dimensions and size, there would be a lot of cross-lease titles. There's a lot of subdivided titles up there, but you could certainly reacquire and create a space that large. It will cost, but I think it would be proportionate to the money that you could potentially make off the development.
And just in
capability
terms
this land.
of people movements around there, you've got schools, like 2 big secondary schools that are both going past there, and across the road you've got a very popular plant barn. So a lot of people do congregate just around this particular spot, don't they?
Absolutely, yes. Westlake Girls just across the road, Westlake Boys just up from there. You've got Forest Hill Primary up further from there. So there's a lot of schools in very close proximity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Oh, sorry, George.
Well, yeah,
Councillor
just in relation to that, have you ever seen people actually using that bit of land as a grassed area?
No, I haven't. And I mean, I don't pass by every day, fairly infrequently, but I've never seen anyone use it.
And the crossing from Westlake Girls to Westlake Boys doesn't go anywhere near that land, does it? It's on the other side, the King's Plant Barn side.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, I think you have to cross, if you were on that corner, you would have to cross over towards King's Plant Barn, and then you'd have to cross again, I think, to get to the other side.
Okay.
Yeah, and the last question is, there is a children's play area about 400 metres down Nile Road from that location, isn't there?
There is a fully fenced one, I think, as well. So yes, that's just up the road, probably a 4 or 5 minute walk. I should just point out, sorry, through you, Madam Chair, that aside from the comments around the resolution, these are all comments that I'm trying to make, and mostly in a personal capacity, because the board hasn't resolved on any of these issues. So that's absolutely correct, and all the comments I've been making, I've been trying to answer to the best of my ability, but I don't have resolutions that I can point to that empower me to say that on behalf of the board.
So other than that, you know, for that area at the corner of Forest Hill and Wairau Road, where is this new residential development which your board is kind of talking about that's going to necessitate this being used for recreation from the residents?
Again, there's no specific resolution that points to that, but I would probably highlight the mixed house urban zoning on both sides of Forest Hill Road heading up from that direction, where there is an uplift. Plus you've also got some mixed use zoning. I think now the King's Plant Barn has mixed use zoning, and you've also got mixed use and higher density around the Shakespeare corridor, heading towards Milford as well. So there has been some uplift through the proposed unitary plan and the independent hearings panel recommendations, and I don't know what the status of either of those will be come next Friday, but it does look like more generally there's the opportunity for some upscale in that area.
Thank you. And of course, we have to point out no decisions have been made.
Sorry, yes, and I'm not trying to in any way suggest that they have been.
No, that's fine. Well, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation. And we've changed it to
Thanks, Jill.
regarding rather than oppose or support.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and members of the committee.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Now, Vanessa, do you want to speak now or do you want to speak at the item?
Entirely up to you, Madam Chair.
What do you feel most comfortable at? You can speak at the item? Okay, great. Not a problem. Right,